And we are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Doing a $50 best ball sprint on Underdog today. I got the Walter Picks app ready in front of me, synced. We got the second pick in this draft. Feeling pretty good about that. I drafted from the 2 slot last night in a Yahoo half PPR draft. This is also half PPR. I am probably going to go with CeeDee Lamb at 2 here. Feeling really good about CeeDee Lamb, really wherever you're getting him in drafts at the moment. How we doing, everybody? It is the best time of the year. It is peak draft season, man. I'm pumped. I got the second pick in this draft coming up. We're live on TikTok and YouTube. On the TikTok live, you can see the Walter Picks app. On the YouTube live, you can see the Underdog draft I'm in. This is a real $50 draft, 100K to first place. If I win this league, or if I come in first or second in this league, just need to come top 2 out of these 12. I advance to the playoffs, and in this format, this is a sprint over an Underdog. I go against everyone else that finished top 2 in their leagues, and it's a sprint in the final 2 weeks. We see CMC, so in the final 3 weeks, we see CMC go off the board 1 overall. That's pretty usual. We're going to go CeeDee Lamb here at 2. Feel pretty good about that. We actually have Tyreek Hill ranked ahead of CeeDee Lamb in our best ball rankings, but I feel a bit better about Lamb than Tyreek just overall right now. McCaffrey, Lamb, Tyreek. I think this is how most drafts really should be starting, regardless of scoring format. But I feel pretty good getting the 2 slot here. Let me show you guys the draft board if you're watching live on YouTube. How we doing, everybody? Also, get those comments in. But I like having the 2 pick. I like being on one of the ends for the live stream because it's much easier for me to get to the comments. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, we are also live on YouTube. This is a real draft that I'm in right now. This is a real $50 best ball draft that I'm in right now. I had the 2 pick, went CeeDee Lamb. This is from the Walter Picks app, synced to this Underdog draft. You're watching live on TikTok, you're watching live on YouTube. You can see me in the Underdog draft room right now. Let me know what draft day decisions you guys are battling right now and deciding between. Right now, I got some time for comments. Jefferson early. Yeah, Jefferson went 4 here. I'm not that scared to take Justin Jefferson personally. I've seen him go much, much later than this, though. He went 4th overall in this draft before Jamar Chase. I've seen Jamar Chase slide a bunch. He didn't slide in this draft either. This is definitely a sharp room of drafters. $50 draft here over on Underdog. So I do think we're drafting against mostly sharp people. We'll see. I thought I was drafting against mostly sharp people last night in a $100 Yahoo draft. Someone took a kicker before I took Rashee Rice in that draft. I think I got to be doing more Yahoo drafts. But yeah, I'm fine taking Jefferson. After CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill are off the board, I think Amon-Ra is a little bit safer with his offensive situation. But man, Jefferson to me is the best receiver in the NFL. I'm not scared to take him at all. In a season-long format, I think I'd prefer Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson over Justin Jefferson. I had the second pick in this draft, by the way. I had the second pick. I took CeeDee Lamb. We're off to a good start. Feel really good at number 2 with CeeDee Lamb. We saw a wide receiver run here in this draft. This is a best ball draft on Underdog. $50 real league here. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. You can see the whole draft board on the YouTube live. And it's also easier for me to answer comments on the YouTube live. I can pull them up on screen. Do you think Jerome Ford is worth it for Dynasty? I think Jerome Ford is one of the most underrated players in all of fantasy football right now. I think it's kind of obvious how underrated, how big of a sleeper Jerome Ford is right now. Let me show you guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, let me show you. If we look up Jerome Ford here and just go to his game logs real quick. By the way, you're looking at the Walter Picks app. You're watching live on TikTok. If we just go to his game logs here for a second, he was at least 10 fantasy points in almost every single game last season. Like, he has a pretty high weekly floor. He catches passes. And I think the Browns could be near the top of the league in pass attempts this season. And I don't have a ton of confidence we're going to see Nick Chubb anytime super soon. So, yeah, I think Jerome Ford's worth a stash in Dynasty. He's also younger than people realize, only 24 years old. We're in a real $50 draft here right now that's synced to the Walter Picks app. I had the second overall pick. Took CeeDee Lamb at 2. Guys, if you haven't downloaded the Walter Picks app yet, I do not know what you are waiting for. You are running out of time to get the maximum value out of the app. It syncs to your ESPN, Yahoo, and Sleeper leagues and your Underdog leagues like me here in an Underdog draft. Custom to your league settings. This is best ball specific rankings I'm working with here with the Walter Picks app too. Should I trade Mostert and Mooney for Ford? I'm fine with that, yeah. 10th pick tonight, should I go Garrett Wilson, then Barkley in the second? Yeah, I'm cool with that. I think that's a fine thing to do. I like Barkley too, not going to lie. I don't want to underestimate the massive efficiency boost that we're going to see. Sorry for the TikTok live. I haven't been showing you the live picks here because I'm focused on my pick. Achane goes in round 2. Debo goes in round 2. Saquon, Waddle off the board. But yeah, Saquon Barkley going from a bottom 5 Giants offensive line to a top 5 Eagles offensive line. I don't want to underestimate the power of that. We just saw something very similar for David Montgomery last season. He goes from a bottom 5 Bears offensive line to a top 5 Lions offensive line. And what does he do? He finishes top 5 in touchdowns. I think we're going to see a similar thing for Saquon. All right, about to be back on the clock here. The app's telling me Adams, Olave. Olave gets sniped. I'm on the clock. Kyron's there. I really don't love Kyron in this area of the draft. Malik Neighbors is there. God, I don't love Adams either, but he's a little past ADP here. He's the top-ranked player in the Walter Picks app right now, wide receiver 14. He is capable of getting those massive spike weeks. He's a bit old, so it's a little scary, but we're going to have to do it here. Start with the Lamb, Adams start here, and I think I'm going to go Devontae Smith for that Week 17 correlation. So in this format, Week 17 means the same thing as Weeks 15 and 16, though. Let me take a quick peek at. He plays the Bills, the Dolphins. Oh, this is the last season, my bad. He plays in weeks 15, 16, 17. CeeDee Lamb plays the Panthers, Bucks, and Eagles. I maybe should have gone Mike Evans there instead of Devontae Adams. That might have been a mistake. I still could go Mike Evans here. Let's see who the top-ranked guy is on the board. We start Lamb, Adams. Evans is still there. We do have Evans ranked a decent bit ahead of Devontae Smith. He goes Kyron Williams despite already having McCaffrey. That's interesting. And then he goes Mike Evans. I think I got to go Devontae Smith here. I've taken a lot of CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith in his best ball stuff because the Week 17 correlation. I think I got to do it. Let me just check this. We got a few seconds here. Yeah, we're going to go Devontae Smith. And we start wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith start in this best ball draft. This is a best ball draft, bit of a different settings than a traditional season-long draft. I would not start a traditional season-long draft like this. I probably, honestly, you saw me last night. If I streamed it on YouTube, if you missed it, I did a $100 half PPR Yahoo draft last night, synced to the Walter Picks app. If you guys are watching live on TikTok, by the way, I'm also live on YouTube where you can see the full draft board that I'm drafting. This is an Underdog Best Ball draft. In Best Ball, there's no in-season management. All you do is the draft. There's no starting, no sitting, no dropping, no trading. Changes the strategy a lot. This is also a half PPR format. Generally, I'm going to be drafting 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 receivers, and 2 tight ends in this format, 18 rounds. But yeah, I do like the 0 running back approach too. This is also a tournament. First place gets $100,000 in this format. So you're also playing against thousands and thousands of teams. I have to beat this league. So this is a 12-person draft. I have to come in the top 2 in this league. And then I play all the other people that came in the top 2 in their league. And then if I can get the most points from weeks 15 to 17 against all those teams, I can win 100K, which is why I'm looking at these playoff matchups because I want to stack playoff games. Not even just week 17. I want weeks 15, 16, and 17 stacked. There goes Rashee Rice in the 3rd round because, again, these are sharp drafters that know what they're doing. Let me go back to the comment section here as we got some time in between picks now. Yeah, every single day that goes by, I am more and more worried about the Jamar Chase holdout. And I think you should be too. Every single day that goes by. 2 days ago, I said I think it's 80-20. 80% chance he plays week 1, and this is not going to be like a holdout extended deep into the season. Today, I think that's probably, 65 or 70% now. Tomorrow, it's going to be 60 or 65%. Like, the percentages are going down every single day. But it is pretty unprecedented for a player to have an extended holdout deep into the season because it's bad for all parties involved. Like, if you just step back and think about it for a second, it's bad for Jamar Chase because he's going to get fines and he's going to lose out on hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And it's bad for the Bengals because they're just straight up going to lose games. They're just going to start losing games without their best player. So I still think there's most likely scenario something gets worked out pretty soon. Would you take CMC at 1? Yep, I'm taking CMC at 1. Not going to think too hard about it. I think that's very, very reasonable. I got CMC, Olave, and Henry with my first 3 picks. Thoughts? Yeah, so I'm pretty torn on Derrick Henry. Like I believe in him enough to leave him off the do not draft list this year. I've had him on the do not draft list in years past. But I don't believe in him enough to be targeting him aggressively. Like ultimately, you're drafting Derrick Henry. He's got to get to 20 touchdowns to really win your league. And he could do it, but he's not going to catch many passes. The Ravens offensive line is like a little bit scary. It's a much worse offensive line than they had last year, but I'm willing to bet on just Lamar Jackson and boosting the efficiency of running backs more so than I am to be scared about the offensive line. I do not hate Olave, though, at the end of the second round, beginning of the third round. I think he has like a decent floor. Doesn't have quite, I don't think, the same ceiling as some of those other guys or in his same draft class, around his same age, the Garrett Wilsons, the Drake Londons, just because of his offensive situation with Derek Carr. But I do think he's got a high floor. He's been top 10 in air yards multiple seasons. Yeah, I do value T. Higgins just a bit higher for sure. But we did see T. Higgins with a stretch without Jamar Chase last season, and it wasn't the best. Like, I think it raises T. Higgins' ceiling a little bit, but I don't know if it changes really his weekly floor like at all. Thoughts on Diggs and the Texans offense? Good timing, and we just saw Steph Diggs go off the board here in this $50 best ball draft I'm in right now. We already saw Tank Dell picked ahead of him, and obviously we saw Nico Collins. Look, Nico Collins went in round 2, end of round 2. So beginning of round 2, Nico Collins went before Jonathan Taylor, before Devon Achane in this draft. He went really early in this draft. Then we see Tank Dell going round 3, very end of round 3, and then we see Steph Diggs going round 4. And honestly, that's how I would be drafting it. I think all 3 guys are pretty good draft picks. I think they're all going to be a little bit less consistent than you want in fantasy football, but they're all going to have massive weeks. And definitely in this best ball format, I think they're pretty good picks. Let's see who the top available guys are left as my picks coming up here. Got Amari Cooper, top available. Jalen Hurts, I'll definitely take him. I already have Devontae Smith. If Jalen Hurts slid all the way to me, and he doesn't, of course, right as I'm saying that, he gets sniped. Right as I'm saying that, there goes Jalen Hurts. Would have been too good to be true for him to fall to me all the way at 47 there. I do think I'm going to go Amari Cooper here. His ADP is 43. If he slides to me, he usually goes to one of these teams, though. The team that took Tyreek will probably take him. Let me take a peek at Devontae Smith's weeks 15, 16, 17 here too, since the playoffs really matter in this format I'm drafting in. We got Steelers, Commanders, Cowboys. That does make me a little bit more likely to go George Pickens here. Michael Pittman's still on the board. He slid a little bit. Josh Jacobs goes. I don't really feel compelled to go any of these running backs. There goes Michael Pittman. I could go Lamar. I don't think I'm going to do that. I have no Rams players. I don't really love Trey McBride here. I think I'm going to go Amari Cooper. We'll start with the 4 wide receiver start. Here's the top available based on the Walter Picks best ball rankings by kind of a lot. Top 25 wide receiver. Big jump here to the next best wide receiver. Top running back, James Cook. I still might consider George Pickens. I do think he has some good spike week potential, and he's got some correlation in the playoff weeks here. Get back to some of the comments here in a second, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, we are also live on YouTube. You can see the whole draft board on YouTube. This is a real draft, $50 draft. This is not a mock draft. This is a real draft. I've started 4 straight receivers. This is a best ball draft, so a little bit different than your traditional format. I am only answering the comments on the YouTube live right now, though. I can't see the TikTok live comments with how I got this set up right now. He goes Trey McBride, Lamar. I'm thinking George Pickens. I start 5 straight receivers here. I'm comfortable doing this in this format. Yeah, we're gonna rip it. We're gonna go George Pickens, and I'm definitely not very exposed to George Pickens this season. I haven't been drafting him a ton. Goes a little bit past ADP here, but in the best ball format where I don't need to predict which weeks George Pickens is going to explode. I just need to bet that he's going to explode a few weeks. And we saw it last season in a really abysmal offense. He had 5 games over 15 half PPR points. He had 1 game over 30 points. Just a couple games over 30 points can do this for me. I really think the 0 running back strategy too in these best ball formats makes a lot of sense. He plays the Eagles week 15. He gets the Ravens and the Chiefs 16 and 17. All right, let's get back to some of these comments here in the YouTube live. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. You think Javonte Williams bounces back and shows his real potential? I'll get to that one next. Who do I think 110, 201? I don't know. And my draft is in 4 hours. Thomas, download the Walter Picks app. Download the Walter Picks app. Here, let me show you. Let me show you. Look, I got this. I got this up right now in this best ball draft. This is what I'm looking at. If you're seeing, I'm not looking at the camera all the time. Look, this is synced to my live draft. Do this in your live draft. Up at the top, you're going to see the best positional values based on your league settings, based on who you've already taken. You also are going to see rankings here, custom to your league settings. You see, there's a reason I'm ripping all of these receivers, because I know in this best ball format how important it is getting receivers in these early rounds. I know I can make it up by six high upside running backs. Again, this is not a normal traditional season long draft here. I'm doing this as a best ball draft with pretty unique settings. But you can go by position, look at the custom rankings to your scoring settings. You can also compare players. Like if I was struggling between Ridley and Keenan Allen here, I can just compare them real quick, see who's projected more points. Or if you care more about ceiling or floor, just go with one of those things. It's too much. How much money total am I buying? So I'm about 5K in on best ball, just best ball. And then it'll be similar to that on the season long stuff. It's about 10 total, about 10 total. Here we go. Let me show this again. We'll put back in the draft room here. Let me get back to the comments. But I believe I have an advantage in a lot of my drafts using the Walter Picks app with all the research and really the grinding I do in the off season. You know, I think worst case, like my worst season at this level of stakes, my worst season is I lost 10 or 20% of that. In my best seasons, I'm making 50 to 150% of that, especially the best ball stuff. I just need to come in first once. You think Javonte Williams bounces back and shows his real potential? Yeah, so I think there's a decent chance of this happening. He definitely seemed to have more juice down the stretch last season. He seemed fine in the preseason too. And like, there's a story you can tell, similar to the story we're telling about Cooper Kupp, man. It's a similar story where last season he comes in, coming off the surgery, a pretty bad injury, kind of underratedly bad injuries for Javonte Williams. And he comes in, he's a little inefficient to start the season. He goes under 10 fantasy points every single game until week 7. But then he closes out the season, Javonte Williams, a little bit better. He had multiple games over 15 points, 4 games over 15 points in like his last 10. The Broncos did lead the NFL in running back targets last season too, which is a good thing for all of them for fantasy football. But I don't think, like, I'm a little bit scared about Javonte with just the backfield rotation there, because I think Jaleel McLaughlin is going to be very involved in the passing game. And I also do think that Audric Estime is a pretty underrated rookie running back that could eat into his workload too. Audric Estime might be the preferred goal line back on the team just out of the gates. Audric Estime, my prospect modeling had him pretty high before the draft. He went a little later in the draft than I would have hoped. But I think a good comp for him is a Jordan Howard. Like, he could be a touchdown scorer machine like Jordan Howard was. He could be like a Jordan Howard type guy at the goal line. So he might already be a better goal line back than Javonte. So if Jaleel McLaughlin's a better receiving back than Javonte, or at least as good, or he's to be used in that role in third downs like he was last season. I think he had 50 catches last season, or 40 catches. And then Audric Estime is going to be used at the goal line. It's going to be tough, really tough for Javonte to hit. So I think there's like a ceiling there if he can get that workhorse role, but I don't think it's a guarantee. Should I trade Rice and Hubbard for Pacheco? No, I wouldn't do this. I think Rice is a smash pick. Look, Rice went in the 3rd round of this draft we're doing right now. This is a $50 best ball draft. Receivers are a little inflated in this format. That's why I've ripped 5 straight receivers to start my draft. But Rashee Rice went in the 3rd round, ahead of DK Metcalf. He went ahead of Isaiah Pacheco in this draft. And then Chuba Hubbard's going to be starting running back for the first month at least of the season. If AJ's there, should I go AJ stack with Hurts, or should I go Wilson and pick Josh Allen? I like both of these. I think AJ Brown, though, is a better pick than Garrett Wilson. And I lean Josh Allen slightly over Jalen Hurts, but it's super close. Super, super close. All right, we're going to be back on the clock here in a second. Let's see what we're looking at. We're back on the clock. Alvin Kamara sitting there. He is a stack with Devontae Adams. I think I probably have to do that. Haven't gone running back yet. Then we'll look at maybe one of these 2 quarterbacks. I don't have any stacks with them. But we'll go Kamara first. Let's take a peek at the rankings here. Still got receivers. Kyler's up there, though. We had Kamara up there. James Conner is going to be an interesting option here, too. He goes Christian Watson. I don't have any Kyler Murray stacks. I could get Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson later, though. Oops, sorry about that on TikTok. Get that back up for you. And we're back on the clock now. I kind of think I go Kyler Murray here. In round 7, over Stroud is an interesting choice. Haven't done that a ton. But yeah, I think we're going to lock in Kyler so I can go with a 2 QB build. James Conner might make a little bit more sense, but yeah, we're going to go Kyler Murray here. All right, so we got our first running back, first quarterback on this draft. Again, this is a $50 sprint draft here. I need to come in the top 2 in this league, and then if I advance, I play everyone else that came in the top 2 in their leagues. This is a tournament. And if I come in first place, take a look at this if you're watching live on YouTube. If you're not, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. It's a better viewing experience. Link is right in the TikTok bio. First place gets 100K in this format. 100K in this format. I need to in the playoffs are weeks 15 to 17. It's a 3 weeks sprint. That's why it's called the sprint. Which is why I'm looking at the weeks 15, 16, and 17 matchups for correlation in this matchup, in this lineup. Kyler Murray, he gets the Rams week 17. Who does he play? Weeks 15 and 16. He plays the Pats and the Panthers. Definitely stackable there. All right, so let me get some of these stacks ready. We're definitely going to want at least 2 of those guys. Would love Blake Corum on this 0 running back team. Jonathan Brooks, too. Great pick on these 0 running back teams. I think both these guys are reasonable as well to get that correlation with the Cardinals. And then it was the Patriots. I think Polk's probably still there. Mondre's still there, too. Really only kind of want these 2 guys. I think Javon Baker maybe in round 18 could make sense. It's just like, will any of these other guys really get a spike week for best ball that can really win me this tournament? I like Demario Douglas in PPR formats. This is not a PPR format, though. I don't think he's got the touchdown ceiling I'm really looking for. All right, let's go back to the comments here in the YouTube live. Guys, you're watching live on TikTok. You're trying to get your comment answered. I got you. Come over to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. This is a live $50 draft. This is a real draft going on right now. Here's my team. I draft from the 2 slot. Start with CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, George Pickens. I started with 0 running back strategy here. Ripped Alvin Kamara, Kyler Murray with my next 2 picks. Yeah, I would not do this trade. Don't think I would do this trade. You like Ladd? I'm seeing that comment in the TikTok live. Yeah, I do like Ladd. I do. I think he already got taken in this draft. Yeah, he did. Let's see where he went. He went right after my Kyler Murray pick. I like Ladd a lot. Look, I think Ladd McConkey's ceiling is really high. One of my bold predictions this season is that Ladd McConkey's going to finish as a top 24 wide receiver. This is the Walter Picks app, by the way. If you're watching live on TikTok, you got to download the Walter Picks app, guys. If you're drafting or if you're just getting ready to dominate in season, because you don't just win your leagues during your draft. Your draft is super important, but it's not just about your draft. Also about the waiver pickups, the start-sit decisions, and the app's going to help with all of that. But yeah, if we can compare Ladd to Josh Palmer, I think it's not that unreasonable to project Josh Palmer maybe for a slightly bigger role out of the gates week 1. But man, the ceiling's definitely higher for Ladd McConkey. Wide receiver 13 ceiling in the Walter Picks app. That's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. All right, we're up in 6 picks here or so. Let me go back to the player list for a second. Take a look at the ADPs. No Jaguars. The tight ends are going to start getting really bleak, so I definitely got to consider one of these 2 guys if they're there. We do have Amari Cooper already. It could set up the Deshaun stack. I mean, I have just way too much Deshaun Watson in these best ball formats. I can't stop drafting Deshaun Watson. I'm feeling sick about it. But the ceiling is just undoubtedly so high compared to where he's going, especially in this best ball format, especially in a tournament structure where I got to beat thousands and thousands of other teams. If I could stack him and Njoku and Amari Cooper, I'm going to feel pretty good about that. Seeing a little bit of a running back run. This is a live draft I'm doing over on Underdog. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, this is a real $50 draft, not a mock draft. You can come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio to see the full draft board here. If you got any comments in the YouTube live, I'll try to get to them as well. About to be back on the clock here, though. So we got to lock in. Big running back run here. 5 running backs in the last 6 picks. Some of the quarterbacks are starting to go. I don't think there's – I mean, I could go Dak for the CeeDee Lamb stack. I'm really only drafting Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb teams. But if I get Njoku, I'm probably going to save that second quarterback slot for Deshaun. Honestly, Mostert and Njoku here would be great. There goes Njoku. I think I might have to go Bowers. Still don't hate this Mostert pick. I could maybe get Mostert and Jalen Wright. There's still a path to a Deshaun Watson stack on this team. But I honestly kind of like the Dak Prescott move here. There goes Javonte Williams. Let's see who the app's got as the top-ranked player left here. Yeah, Raheem Mostert's number 2. We still got – wow, yeah, we got to go Raheem Mostert. This has got to be a Raheem Mostert pick on this team. 0 running back team. Take the running back 19 in our best ball rankings. Raheem Mostert's absolutely capable of massive weeks. I do kind of like stacking him with Jalen Wright, too. I have so much Devon Achane, too, across all my leagues. Got to hedge against that a little bit. 0 running back start. Started 5 straight receivers, so I don't hate going Mostert here, especially since there's a massive running back run. I think we had Mostert ranked ahead of almost all of these running backs in best ball, too. There goes Sutton. Does this team have a tight end? Yeah, they did take Trey McBride, so Bowers is probably going to be there for me. Do I really want to stack Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers together, or do I want to stack Dak and CeeDee Lamb instead? I kind of think I want to stack Dak and CeeDee Lamb instead. There goes Brock Bowers anyways. Panthers, Bucks, Eagles. I do kind of want Jonathan Brooks on this team too, though. I do, and I already went Kyler. I think I'm going to go Jonathan Brooks. I'm going Dak. We're going with Dak. Last second. I want Jonathan Brooks. He's going to be out the first month of the season. I probably could have got Chuba Hubbard later. Piece it together. I do think Jonathan Brooks is a really good 0 running back pick, but he's tough to pick in the best ball format right now. You're just missing a month this season from your 9th round pick, just out of the gates. And I think he's going to take some ramp up time too. I definitely like Jonathan Brooks the most. I like Jonathan Brooks the most in redraft leagues, like traditional redraft leagues against your buddies, when you have an IR slot. Rounds 9 and 10, I'm going to be pressing the button on Jonathan Brooks if he's there and I have an IR slot and don't even need to use a roster slot for him. Because I do think down the stretch of the regular season, he can win fantasy football leagues. And I think he has that ceiling. I think the ceiling for Jonathan Brooks this season is ultimately a slightly worse version of rookie Saquon. A slightly worse version of rookie Saquon. All right, we're going to reconfigure here for a second. I'll restart the TikTok. I'll be back in a second, TikTok. Let me know if you guys have any comments you want me to get to. I got you. I'm going to share screen to both the app and this draft board. You guys can see what I'm looking at here. Here we go. Move myself a little bit. There we go. Any tips on a 16-man PPR, 2 flex, 8th overall pick? Yeah, you got to go running back. You got to take 2 running backs, honestly, like in the first 3 picks, Owen. If I'm like, just even in my 12-man leagues, I want 2 of this group of running backs: Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, Saquon. The first 7 running backs that went in this draft here that we're looking at, like, give me 2 of those players. I think it's a fantastic start. Like this Bijan Achane start in a normal redraft league, especially 16-man. I mean, you might not be able to get 2 of these guys in a 16-man league, but try to get 1 of them, because the drop-off at running back is so steep. But the drop-off at receiver, while steep, I think there's some really incredible values late in almost every season-long draft. Like I'm seeing Brian Thomas going round 10, I'm seeing Rashee Rice going round 4 and round 5. Rashee Rice is a 3rd-round pick in this draft. Ladd McConkey, I think, can win leagues down the stretch. Deontay Johnson's going late. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a really good value pick. Like, I just think there's value picks at the receiver position, and then you can still get a ton of upside at running back late in the draft. Like, I really like the upside handcuffs. So I'll show you in a second here. Just getting the TikTok live back up and running. But yeah, I do like some of the receiver value late. And then the running backs, like you get Blake Corum really, really late. Jonathan Brooks is still there. Very interesting. I was considering him over Dak. I'm glad I didn't do that. And now this simplifies my draft strategy in this best ball draft I'm in right now too, since I don't need a quarterback. And there goes Jonathan Brooks, I think. No, he didn't get taken. But yeah, some of the running backs late. Marshawn Lloyd, I think, has league winning upside down the stretch. Jalen Wright, Braylon Allen, Bucky Irving. A lot of these rookie running backs, I think, have really high upside potential with injuries. So you can get similar running back upside that you're getting in the middle rounds. You might need an injury for it to hit, but you can get similar upside in the late rounds with the running backs. Go early running back, then hammer the value receivers in those middle rounds. Don't be afraid to go to quarterback and tight end, but I think in the larger leagues, I'm more likely to go late round quarterback specifically. Tight end, the drop off is so steep that in a 16-man league, like you got to be aware of the cliff at tight end. I've already hit the cliff really in this league. Like I'll take Dallas Goedert if he's there, even though this oblique injury heading into the season doesn't seem great. He's probable. I'm reading sitting out practice with an oblique injury 1 week ago. Don't think he's practiced yet, but I guess it doesn't sound too overly serious. But look at the drop off after Dallas Goedert is massive drop off after Dallas Goedert. Dalton Schultz is the 4th or 5th best receiving option on his own team. Pat Freiermuth is on a really unexciting offense. It's going to be very run heavy. TJ Hawkinson's not going to be ready for the whole first month of the season, maybe longer, probably longer. Like it's just such a steep drop off here. I'm going to go Dallas Goedert, and he's near the top of the queue here. I want Tajay Spears too. This guy does need running backs. He did already take Trey McBride as well and Brock Bowers, so I can probably push Dallas Goedert one more and go Tajay Spears here. I'm probably going to do that. Or Tony Pollard went around 8. Wow, really a gap for me between these two guys. And I do like Pollard more than Spears, but man, don't know if I agree with that big of a gap. This guy's about to auto pick Tajay Spears, of course. We're going to go Blake Corum because I do not think this guy's going to take a tight end. He already has 2. I love Blake Corum in the if I'm doing a 0 running back strategy, I'm taking Blake Corum like 10 out of 10 times. I'm not going to let him slide past round 10. If I did a 0 running back strategy where I started 5 straight receivers in this draft, he goes Zeke. There's no way he takes Dallas Goedert from me here. I like Dallas Goedert too because it's a stack with my Eagles. Sorry, my Cowboy stack. They play each other in week 17 here in this best ball format. Got Aaron Jones the 8th. Yeah, I don't like that. Guys, I'm in a live draft over on YouTube. Link is in the TikTok box. If you're watching live on TikTok. Let me run through the do not draft list for you guys, though. Let me run through the do not draft list. I already posted a video about why I'm not drafting all of these guys. First of all, Zamir White, Devin Singletary, Ramondre Stevenson, they all have the exact same issue in fantasy football. They are all touchdown-dependent running backs, which means they're not going to catch a ton of passes, and they're on bad offenses. So where are the touchdowns going to come for these touchdown-dependent running backs? I don't know. I think Zamir White, Devin Singletary, Ramondre Stevenson, to be good fantasy football picks, to provide value at their cost. It's not like their cost is crazy, but it is a decent cost, a mid-round cost. They got to score 10 touchdowns, and I don't think they're going to do that on their respective offenses. And I think to win leagues, like to win fantasy football leagues, and this is really what gets down to the point with almost every single player on my do not draft list, is when I'm drafting at all stages of my draft, whether it's round 2 or 3, and I'm looking at Travis Kelce, and I don't think he's going to be at full throttle in the fantasy football playoffs because he went under 10 points in all 3 fantasy football playoff games last year. Like at every single stage of my draft, I want players that can win my fantasy football league. And Zamir White, Devin Singletary, Mondre, I just don't think there's a very clear path to them winning fantasy football leagues. Maybe they can be, slightly good values at their cost. But like Blake Corum has a way better chance to win fantasy leagues than these guys because he's just one injury away from being a top 5 running back in fantasy. I do not think Zamir White, Devin Singletary, Mondre can be top 5 running backs in fantasy. Christian Watson, I get the ceiling case for him. Like, of all these guys, Christian Watson, Adonai Mitchell, and Kelsey stand out to me the most of like guys that could legitimately just win fantasy leagues. But Christian Watson, I think he's the definition of a start sit nightmare. I don't want anything to do with it. I actually did just draft Dak in his best ball draft. I'm in a live $50 best ball draft over on the YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, I'm telling you, come to the YouTube live. It is a much, much better viewing experience than on TikTok. Sam, in rounds 1 through 4, I took CD, H-N, London, Mixon. Love that. After that, I went DJ Moore and Pickens for my 2 flexes. What do you think? Yeah, so I don't love Pickens. Another guy I actually took in this draft is a best ball draft, though. The best ball drafts are definitely a little bit of a different strategy. And in best ball, if I draft CD Lamb, I'm going to be considering Dak. But my thing with Dak is Dak led the NFL in touchdown rate last season. He also led the NFL in pass attempts inside the 5. Almost never do we see quarterbacks do that in back-to-back seasons. Almost always do we see the quarterback regress towards his average. The reason I have Kelsey in my do not draft list is he went under 10 points in all 3 fantasy football games last year. They throttled back his usage a little bit in the fantasy football playoffs. And that kind of makes a lot of sense. He's a 35-year-old tight end. They're going to go for the 3rd straight Super Bowl run. Let's rest him a little bit down the stretch of regular season. So he's at full throttle for the NFL playoffs. Is Bijan at the 101 crazy? It's really not that crazy. I think I definitely would go with Christian McCaffrey over him. I definitely would go Christian McCaffrey, but I honestly think Bijan at any stage in round 1 is like a reasonable pick. I think Bijan's got a pretty good chance to lead the NFL in touchdowns, and he's a really good receiving back. I think he's a better receiving back than most people realize. Did you max out the BBM? I did. I maxed out the BBM. I'm wrapped up, 150 in. I sent my last BBM roster into the Discord. If you guys haven't joined the Discord yet, definitely got to join the Discord. It's been a blast getting that going again for this season. Link to that is in the YouTube live stream. Link to the YouTube live stream is in the TikTok bio. And I promise you guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, you're going to hear all the same information on TikTok and YouTube, but the YouTube live stream is a better viewing experience. It's easier for me to pull up comments on the YouTube live. I can share my full computer screen. You can see the full draft board in the draft I'm in right now. I had the 2nd pick. I ripped it with CD Lamb, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, George Pickens in my first 5 rounds. I went 5 straight receivers. I am not scared to go to the 0 running back approach just in general this year, but definitely the best ball format over an Underdog. Haven't taken a wide receiver since. I do need to start looking at the receivers again in a second here when I'm about to be back on the clock. But since those first 5 rounds where I worked 5 straight receivers, I got Alvin Kamara, Kyler Murray, Raheem Mostert, Dak Prescott, Blake Corum, Dallas Goedert. Feeling pretty good, honestly, about how this is shaped out so far. I'm going to be doing another one of these on the same live stream, by the way, next. So we'll be live for a little bit here. Try to get to as many comments as I can possibly get to. Singletary, Zamir White, Ramondre Stevenson, they're just not going to win fantasy leagues. They don't have the ceiling to win fantasy leagues. So I'm not really that interested in them. Darnell Mooney, definitely an interesting choice here. I do want Jalen Wright. Tyler Algier, good 0 running back pick. I still kind of like Josh Downs at his suppressed cost. Sounds like he's going to be back at full health in the first month of the season. There goes Tyler Algier. Let me look at my 2 quarterback schedules again here. Make sure I'm trying to get these playoff stacks. I got to get the playoff stacks in this format. Plan for the best case scenario where I make it top 2 in this league. We got Patriots, Panthers, Rams, and I think it was Commanders, Steelers, and Eagles here. No, Panthers, Bucks, Eagles. Panthers, Bucks, Eagles. So both had the Panthers. It makes me kind of want to take. That does make me kind of want to. I'm going to go Jalen Wright here first. I love getting Mostert and Wright. I do like stacking running backs from the same team in best ball. I think that is an underrated strategy, especially with running backs like this. Both these guys are capable of 30-point weeks. And one of them goes down, the other is directly going to benefit. What do you think about Nico Collins? Yeah, I like Nico a lot. I think he's a clear top 25 wide receiver in fantasy. I think we got him ranked inside the top 20 in the Walter Picks app. If you guys haven't tried out the Walter Picks app yet, I do not know what you're waiting for. Is this a sprint? Yeah, this is the sprint, Paul. This is the sprint. This is my first sprint draft. That's why I'm looking at the weeks 15, 16, and 17 here. And I got to go Michael Wilson, I think, to get that Kyler Murray stack, because the team stacks are more important than the week 15, 16, 17 stacks. I got no Cardinals yet on this team. So we're going to go with Michael Wilson here. I do kind of like how this team's shaping out so far. My first sprint draft, $50 draft. I got to come in top 2. Super chat available. I don't think I got the super chat available, Ali, but I will get to your comments, I promise. will do my best to get to this comment in a second. But I do like how this has started for me. I got the Kyler Michael Wilson stack. We'll try to get Greg Dortch later on. I did actually get Blake Corum too, so that's the week 17 stack there. I got to keep looking at the weeks 15 and 16 because they're just as important as week 17 in this format. The playoffs here are week 15, 16, 17 cumulative scoring. Spring is a horrible contest. $50, 150 max is ridiculous. Yeah, Paul, I'm not going to max. This is my first entry into this. Not going to max it. The reason I don't think it's horrible, Paul, just from my perspective, sorry, I'll get back, Ollie, I'll get back to your comment here in a second. Guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like and subscribe button. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. And I'm going to get to every single one of these guys on my Do Not Draft list up on TikTok. I'm going to get to all of them. But I also post a video pinned to the account with analysis on every single one of these players and why I'm not drafting them in fantasy. I did draft Dak literally in the $50 draft I'm in right now, but it's a best ball contest. And I drafted CeeDee Lamb. I'm willing to stack with CeeDee Lamb. That's the only case I'm drafting Dak. I'll talk about Dak in a second. But yeah, it's not a horrible contest to me, Paul, because I've max entered the Best Ball Mania, which is a $25 entry, 150 max. And it's a huge tournament, right? 1.5 million to first. And I've never made the finals. It is so hard to make the finals in Best Ball Mania because of how the contest structure works and just how big of a tournament it is. You actually have less than 0.5% of a chance. It's just if it was all purely even and random, less than 0.5% of a chance just to make the finals. Never mind to do well in the finals. Whereas in this contest, I just need to come top 2 out of 12, 1/6 chance, like a 15% chance for me to advance, and then I'm in the finals. The finals is just weeks 15, 16, 17. I like that. I could have a chance at the first place prize just by coming in at top 2 out of 12. That's the thing I like about this contest. But yeah, I mean, $50 is just too pricey to max enter for me, and I think for most people. So that's why I haven't really done this contest at all, and I've been so focused on the traditional formats. This is my first one of these. All right, let's get back to Ollie's comment here before I'm back on the clock. He's got a keeper question. All right, you got Breece Hall in round 3, lose him next year, or Laporta in round 10 for 2 years. Yeah, that's a really interesting spot, man. I think you go Laporta. Yeah, I think you got to go Laporta here. I mean, like the ADP value for Breece is good. Obviously, he's a first-round pick. Laporta in this draft, he went round 4. I think that's where he's going round 4, round 5. You're going to get 5 rounds of ADP value at least this year and probably same thing next year. Like, he's not going to get any worse next year, man. Yeah, Paul, 100% with you, man. The price point's bad. But it also seems like this one's going to have some overlay. I don't think it's going to fill. It's also part of the reason that motivated me to get an entry in here. I'm going to do another one after this as well. If you guys are watching live on TikTok, guys, smash the like button. But also, I'm also live on YouTube where I'm sharing my screen to an actual $50 draft that I'm in right now. Come to the YouTube live. It's right in the TikTok bio. You're going to get all the same analysis, but also just a way better viewing experience. I'm about to be back on the clock. My team so far is CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, George Pickens, Alvin Kamara, Kyler Murray, Raheem Mostert, Dak, Blake Corum, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Wright, and Michael Wilson. I get it. On the TikTok live, I have Dak as do not draft. I did draft him in this draft. The only teams where I have Dak Prescott are best ball drafts, which is a little bit of a different strategy, stacked with CeeDee Lamb, because stacking matters a ton in these best ball drafts, a ton. It's probably the most important thing, honestly, for strategy. There goes Xavier. I do want Panthers players because I think I just saw Dak and Kyler both have a playoff game against the Panthers. Yeah, weeks 15, I got no Bucks either. And then Kyler Murray, I think it's week 16, he plays the Panthers. Yep, I got to get some Panthers on this team. I got no Panthers. This is going to be Jonathan Mingo or something. Oh, God, it's gross. I guess Jatavion Sanders I could go. That's probably what I got to do. Since I only have one tight end. Who's top ranked now left in the app here? Kate Otten. Kate Otten's an interesting later pick too. Braylon Allen sitting there. I'll probably take him right now. He's not a stack, but Jalen Tolbert too, though. What does this guy need? Does he need receivers? Yeah, he kind of does. He's only got 5 receivers. I like Tolbert. I might go Tolbert Dortch here and just wrap it up with the stacking of the receivers. I got 7 receivers now. Jalen Tolbert has to have a role. He has to have a role. What is the Cowboys' plan? Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks is already dealing with knee soreness. What's the benefit of taking the Panthers? So I'll talk about that in a second. It has to do with the playoff stacking here in this best ball contest. Like, I'll explain best ball in a second too, since I know it's a little bit of a new format. Not everyone's familiar with it. Understanding the settings and the roster settings, but also the scoring settings and the mechanics of what best ball means matters a lot for this format. It influences my strategy a ton. I'm about to take Braylon Allen here, who I think is another really great zero running back pick. If not, then I'm going to go Dortch or Otten to finish up the stacking. Probably lean Dortch. Yeah, I got to go Braylon Allen here. Got to go Braylon Allen. All right, so best ball format. There's no in-season management. All you do is the draft. There's no adding, dropping, starting, sitting, trading. None of that. Just the draft. So you guys get injured, you're screwed. That's just tough luck. You're done. That's how best ball works. It's fair because those are the rules for everybody. Same rules for everyone. And you got to build your roster construction in a way that makes sense. So that's part of the reason these elite receivers have a higher ceiling than the receivers that go later. It's part of the reason the receivers you see go so early in this format. That's why I like the zero running back strategy in this format. It's also a tournament though. I'll pull this up on the YouTube live again. We're live on TikTok and YouTube. If you're on the TikTok live, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. But in this format, I'm playing against 22,000 other people, assuming this fills. So it's in tournaments, you got to be trying to build unique rosters, but correlated rosters too. So if I make the playoffs, I need to be top 2 out of 12 in this league to advance to the finals. And the finals is a weeks 15 to 17 cumulative scoring. That's why I think the Panthers matter for this team, because in weeks 15, 16, 17, I want correlated outcomes. And correlated outcomes, basically all that means is if Kyler Murray pops off in week 16, he could create a high scoring environment in that game that leads to one or multiple Panthers players also popping off in week 16. That's why I want to draft Panthers players playing against the Cardinals in that game. Same thing goes in weeks 15, where the Cowboys play the Panthers. If the Panthers are getting crushed because Dak Prescott just threw 3 touchdowns to CeeDee Lamb, that's going to help my roster. It's also going to help my roster to get that correlation with the Panthers to bring back Jatavion Sanders probably for me in this roster. And I'm probably this is going to be a 3 tight end build for me too, since Dallas Goedert is just not high enough talent for me to only have 2 tight ends on this roster. I think 3 tight end builds also make a lot of sense in this best ball format, where if you're going to wait on tight end, you can make up for it a little bit by just taking 3. You don't need to predict which weeks are going to be the best. Your best lineup's automatically submitted for your lane drafts. Yeah, Javonte has been falling late in drafts. He's going right around running back 32, like right at the end. I'm not drafting Travis Kelce in fantasy football this year. Like, Travis Kelce is the scariest name I have on my do not draft list. For those of you watching live on YouTube, I got my do not draft list up on the TikTok live. It's Zamir White, Aaron Jones, Devin Singletary, Mondre Zeke. Want nothing to do with any of those running backs. I do not think any of those running backs are going to win fantasy football leagues. And at receiver, don't want Jordan Addison, Christian Watson, Tyler Lockett, Courtland Sutton, and Adonai Mitchell. Different reasoning for all those guys, really. Kelce is on this list too. Komet, Dalton Schultz, Dak, and Tua. I took Dak in this draft, stacked with CeeDee Lamb. I'm willing to do that in best ball contest. I'm willing to draft Tua, stacked with Tyreek in best ball too. But otherwise, like, I'm not drafting either of these guys for different reasons there too. I'll get to all this reasoning. But I also, one of the videos pinned to the TikTok account is rationale on every single one of these do not drafts. But for Travis Kelce specifically, let me pull this up on the YouTube live again. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I promise you the YouTube live viewing experience is just a better viewing experience. It's also just more likely I can get to your comment because there's a lot less comments to get to, and I can pull up comments on screen. So come to the YouTube live if you're watching live on TikTok. I promise it'll be worth it. But you zoom in on Travis Kelce's last season, and he had a great season. He was the #1 tight end in fantasy football again, even though it was a down year for him generally in terms of fantasy points per game. But then you zoom in and you see that no teams with Travis Kelce really won fantasy leagues last year. A lot of them made the playoffs, but almost none of them won their leagues because he went under 7 half PPR points in weeks 15, 16, and 17 when it matters most in the fantasy football playoffs. And there was an actual reason for this. He got rested in week 18, didn't even play. The Chiefs were resting Travis Kelce down the stretch as they geared up for the actual NFL playoffs. And in the actual NFL playoffs, Travis Kelce popped off, went over 20 half PPR points in 2 of his 4 playoff games. It worked. The strategy of resting Kelce down the stretch worked. They're going to do it again, I think, for the 35-year-old Travis Kelce. I have no interest in drafting a 35-year-old tight end that I don't have confidence is going to be at full steam when it matters most in the fantasy football playoffs. It's a similar thing for me with Jordan Addison, who I actually think is a pretty talented player. But Jordan Addison has a real chance to get suspended in the fantasy football playoffs. I have no interest in drafting guys that might not. Have you ever thought about starting a weekly podcast? Yeah, for sure. It's really a matter of when, not if. But I post enough content that I don't really feel like I need a podcast. I'm going to be posting a weekly video on YouTube this year every Monday. Might come out Tuesday morning, but I'll be recording it every early Monday morning, reacting to the week that just happened, what it means for the weeks coming up, giving some waiver wire and trade advice for the upcoming week. That'll be, more or less my podcast, but I'm also going to be posting weekly videos over on the TikTok. I think that like a podcast is such a big commitment, and it's so hard to do well. And I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything half-assed. I want to do it fully if I'm going to do it. So at some point I probably will have a podcast, but it's not going to be this season. All right, about to be back on the clock here. And Kate Otten got taken. Jatavion Sanders is still there. Demarcus Robinson's interesting. Jonnu Smith is there. I do have a lot of Dolphins players already. He's by far the best tight end left. I do like Tucker Kraft late too. He's been going way too late in these best ball drafts. Samaje Perine's interesting. He's going to suit up in week 1. I don't hate that. He does have correlation with George Pickens, too. They play each other in week 17. I don't think I've drafted him a single time either. Could be a good last running back for me to take. We're going to do that. Samaje Perine on the 0 running back roster. Few picks after ADP. Now on the Chiefs. And like kind of clearly the running back too. If he's already going to suit up week 1, I think it's a great sign. Kelsey's price was round 1 last year though. Yeah, but the price is still really steep this year. Really steep. He's going in round 3 in every draft. Like that's a steep price still for a 35-year-old tight end that scored under 7 half PPR points in all 3 playoff games. Like he still projects as a top 2 tight end, but to me, there's enough good young tight ends, high upside tight ends that can finish as the number 1 overall tight end, like Trey McBride, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, all have a path to being tight end 1. And I even think Jake Ferguson has kind of a sneaky path too. All right, do I go Jonnu Smith or do I go Tucker Kraft here? I'm going to take Jatavion Sanders, my last pick. I kind of think I got to go with Jonnu Smith. We're going to go Jonnu instead of Kraft. Go with the earlier ADP guy, get some ADP value there. And then the last pick here is probably going to be Jatavion Sanders. I got some time for some comments. Why not Tua? The problem with Tua is he led the NFL in passing yards last season, and he still finished his QB 16 in points per game. Thoughts on David Njoku? Yeah, I like David Njoku a lot. What are your thoughts on DeAndre Swift? I think in PPR formats, he's solid. Yeah, I don't know if I feel good about him as my RB1. Hopefully you had a good 0 running back roster there. But I do think DeAndre Swift is a decent running back for PPR formats and an offense that's going to be big, much improved from last year. If your options were Zamir White or Ramondre, who do you draft? Only other solid options were Najee, Eckler, Javonte, B-Rob, Warren, Singletary. Yeah, this gets a gross part of the draft. It's part of the reason I like going running backs early and then just getting the high upside handcuffs late in drafts and getting all the value in between. But honestly, I think I prefer Najee Harris over Zamir White and Mondre. Because at least Najee Harris is playing for an offensive coach that has been top 5 in rushing yards basically every single year of his coaching career. Arthur Smith is bad for fantasy football, but he's good for rushing. Like his offenses have all been extremely productive on the ground. I think this offense is going to be a little bit boring, but Najee Harris is going to have a chance to get 8+ touchdowns again. He's had at least 8 touchdowns in every year of his career. No reason to think that's going to stop for Najee Harris in a contract season. I think Najee Harris is like an unsexy, boring pick, but at least he has a high floor. But yeah, Zamir White, you can tell a similar story there for Zamir White. I don't think either is super likely to win leagues. I think Najee's a little bit more likely to get to that 15 touchdown outcome than Zamir White is. The problem for me with Zamir White is he doesn't catch passes. He's not the best pass catcher on his team. It's a similar thing with Mondre. They brought in Antonio Gibson. It's just 2 unexciting offenses, running backs that have some pass catching concerns for me. Can't wait for Walter Picks app on desktop. Yeah, it's coming, man. Nick, I can't wait for this either. I'm hoping next season we'll have like a really, really good website for everybody. You'll get to use the app or the website. That's the hope. It's a big thing to do well, but we definitely have it on our radar for sure. Thoughts on the Chase situation? Every day that goes by, I'm more scared about Jamar Chase. This is way, way too early to pick Swift. 3rd round that was a big mistake. I don't think you used the Walter Picks app if you made that pick. And if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. I'm in a live $50 draft. About to be firing up another one of these too. I'm actually in round 18, last pick. feeling pretty good, honestly, about how this turned out. I went with the 0 running back approach. Didn't take my first running back till round 6 in this draft. I went CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, George Pickens to start out this draft. And then I didn't take another receiver until round 13. Alvin Kamara, Raheem Mostert, Blake Corum, Jalen Wright, Braylon Allen, Samaje Perine are my running backs. A lot of high upside handcuffs in there. I really love the stack of Raheem Mostert and Jalen Wright. Tight ends, Dallas Goedert and Jonnu Smith. I'm going to be taking a third tight end, hopefully Jatavion Sanders, who slides to me at the end here. Get some of that week 15-16 correlation with the roster I've built. I'm taking Christian McCaffrey at the 1. I'm seeing some questions about who I take at different spots. One of the pinned videos to the TikTok account is how I think the first round should go. So go watch that video. That I posted that several weeks ago with a very dusty computer screen, and that still stands strong. Sorry, Travis Etienne third. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Amon Ra, Ayuk first 2 picks. Yeah, not a bad first 2 picks. I don't love Ayuk in round 2, but Amon Ra's a good first pick for sure. Why not Jones and Mondre? So Jones is playing on the worst. Bro, I named my team. Yikes. Why not Aaron Jones? Because I drafted in my other league and I'm doubting it now. Yeah. So I think Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, both have really high weekly ceilings. The problem for Aaron Jones is he's playing on the worst offense he's been on in his whole career. This is undoubtedly, even if the Vikings are a little bit better than people expect, Sam Darnold's a little bit better than people expect, which I think is possible. I think it's a really, really quarterback-friendly offense. I think Sam Darnold could definitely surprise some people. But even if that happened, this is clearly the worst offense Aaron Jones has ever played on, and Ty Chandler is going to mix in. So Aaron Jones is not going to be this workhorse running back. He's going to have to be really efficient like he was, but in a worse offense. He's never really had a workhorse role. So I'm a little scared about the offense. I'm a little scared about the timeshare with Ty Chandler. I think Ty Chandler is going to mix in more than people realize. Similar thing with Christian Watson. I think he's going to be a start-sit nightmare. I think he's going to have some massive weeks, but I think good luck guessing when those are going to come. He's the definition of a start-sit nightmare is Christian Watson. I don't want Dak because he led the NFL in touchdown rate last season. If you want analysis on every single one of my do not drafts, check out the pinned video. I talked to every single one of these guys. Also, I'm in a $50 draft right now over on the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio if you want to watch that as I talk through some of this analysis. To that man, Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold would be surprising. The reason Sam Darnold could surprise a lot of people is just the Kevin O'Connell offense and the Vikings offense. It's really like one of the most quarterback-friendly offenses of all time. Not only do they have the best wide receiver in the league, but the scheme is really, really strong for kind of any quarterback to come in and do well. We just saw this last season. Josh Dobbs comes off the street and was a top 10 fantasy football quarterback for a decent stretch last season. We've already seen it. It's not going to be that crazy. We're going to go Jatavion Sanders as planned and wrap up with 2 late tight ends. I love going late 3 tight ends. If my 2 of my last picks are tight ends, don't hate how that draft finished out, man. We're going to do one more of these sprints. I did. I thought I had 50 left here. We're going to do a second sprint. Could not detect my location. You got to be kidding me. There we go. And we filled. Let's go. Love to see that. We're going to log back in here in the Walter Picks app, and then we're going to rip another one of these. We've got the 6th pick. That's right. If you're watching live on TikTok, I just entered a $50 draft over on Underdog. It's a best ball draft, slightly different settings. I'll talk through it on this live stream. But you're going to want to watch the draft as I'm talking through. It's going to be a better viewing experience. I'm going to talk through all these do not drafts, but come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. Come to that. I promise it's a better viewing experience. Let's see, was this the right one? No, I got to resync here. Get this going. Definitely like the 2 picks I landed with here with 6 and 2. Pretty good pick luck there, I think. You never really know. What picks are the best before the season. But I do like the top 6 picks like a decent amount this year. Because I like the running backs. I think there's a clear running back tier that happens. I don't agree with all Rondre. To be honest, he's a must draft at his ADP. So, Andrew, here's the thing with Rondre Stevenson. He's on a projected offense that's going to be bottom 5. A bottom 5 projected offense. The Pats have the 2nd lowest win total in the NFL. And it's not because of their defense. They actually might have a top 10 defense. So their offense is maybe the worst offense in the NFL. There's a real chance the Pats offense, they're also projected to have a bottom 5 offensive line. So you're drafting a running back on a projected bottom 5 offense with a projected bottom 5 offensive line. And then they also signed Antonio Gibson this offseason that's going to eat into his pass catching role. I mean, that's just terrible. A terrible situation all around, really. I got Aaron Jones. Yeah, Aaron Jones at least has a high weekly ceiling. Same thing with Christian Watson. We see Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb start this draft. Then goes Tyreek Hill. Same start as last draft we were in. It is kind of nice to get to do these back to back. See the differences in ADP a bit. There goes Jamar Chase. There goes Amon-Ra. I'm on the clock, and it's between Jefferson and Brees and Bijan here. We got Jefferson ranked highest. Oh man, I do like going receivers early. I haven't gotten a ton of Brees. Probably should go Brees here. We're going to go Brees. Start with a running back. Take Brees Hall at 6. I think having the number 1 pick is overrated. Why not draft Samir? Because he's a touchdown-dependent running back on a offense led by Gardner Minshew. Again, guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. And if you guys haven't checked out the Walter Picks app yet, you got to check it out. It is a massive advantage for fantasy football and for player props. It is a free app. There's some premium subscriptions that are well worth the cost. Why Brees over Bijan? Go Brees, baby. Yeah, go Brees. I've actually been going Bijan over Brees, which is part of the reason I went Brees over Bijan here. When you do enough drafts like I do, you do have to mix it up, especially in best ball. Like I'll show you guys here, I've done 511 drafts. Like if I go to the running backs here and I just compare Brees and Bijan, and Braylon Allen also, look how much I've drafted him. Brees is at 9.2%. Bijan is at 12.3%. So just kind of trying to even out those percentages a little bit. I don't have a super strong take between those two guys. I do prefer Bijan, and I am going to go Bijan over Brees in my season-long drafts when I'm on the clock and have to decide between the two of them. I'm also much more likely to go running back in those season-long drafts. Then I think the zero running back approach in these big tournaments just makes a lot of sense game theory-wise. You just saw me do it in the last draft. But yeah, that's kind of the only reason I went Brees over Bijan here. His ADP is also just a little earlier, so he's a little tougher to get. But yeah, go Brees. Rate my team: Mahomes, Jacobs, Stevenson, Lamb, Harrison Jr. I got in a 10-man PPR league. Kincaid, Ayuk. Yeah, I'll probably get like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. I mean, Tank Dell, McConkey on the bench is good. Mostert on the bench is good. Don't think you need a second quarterback or a second tight end though in a 10-man league. I dropped both those guys, Goff and Schultz. Go get one of the high upside handcuffs on your bench that can actually win your league. Goff is not going to win your league. Schultz is not going to win your league. Dalton Schultz is firmly on the do not draft list. Like go get Braylon Allen. He's on the waiver wire in almost every league. Go get Jalen Wright. He's on the waiver wire in some leagues. Bucky Irving, Ray Davis, Tyrone Tracy, Trey Benson if he's available. Marshawn Lloyd is going to be available in a bunch of spots. Like at least these guys are injuries away from like winning leagues. Are going to be back on the clock here. Probably will go Debo or Cooper Kupp. Devontae Adams goes much earlier in this draft. That's interesting. Good to see considering I got him in the 3rd round last draft. There goes Nico. ADP-wise, it's Debo or Kupp for me here. Kupp's going way earlier than he was early in this offseason, man. I think I'm going to go Debo, though. I'll also consider Achane and Saquon here. There goes Waddle. I don't hate the running back starts. I did just go zero running back. Debo's ADP, I feel like, is a bit inflated right now just because the Ayuk stuff was getting priced in a little bit. Who does Brees play? Does he play the Dolphins at all down the stretch? No. I don't hate going Saquon Brees either. We're going to do it. We're going to go running back start here. When Brees Hall was coming out, I called him Saquon Barkley 2.0. I think that was a pretty good call. So we go running back. I also I like mixing in different strategies. I'm going to do only two drafts in this contest. One of them is going to be a zero running back team. One of them is going to be an RB team. And part of the RB starts in these best ball drafts too. It's very unique, which is good in tournaments. Getting unique rosters. And now I got to be really focused on the receivers here. Coming up, I've probably got to rip 5 straight receivers to catch up at the receiver position now. If you're watching live on TikTok, I'm talking through a live draft right now. I'm doing a $50 live draft on Best Ball, on Underdog Best Ball contest. Best Ball, there's no start-sit decisions. Your best lineup's automatically submitted for you at the end of each week. So it's a slightly different format. But it's a half PPR league, 12-person league, $100,000 first place prize in this draft I'm doing right now. Link to see that is in the TikTok bio. Come to the YouTube live. Watch this live. Why Jones on the do not draft list? I'm taking St. Brown. Yeah, St. Brown's a good pick. I started Breece Hall and Saquon. I had the 6th overall pick. I got Breece at 6. I got Saquon at 19 in this $50 best ball draft I'm in right now. I'm not going to take another running back probably until round 10 plus, maybe later. Going to be hammering receivers probably the next 5 rounds, trying to catch up there. Rashee Rice did go in round 3 in this last one I was doing. I could consider him here. Devontae Smith, I do not hate either. I did get him in the last draft, though. We do have Rice and Metcalf ahead of him in the Walter picks rankings. Rice is the next best receiver available. He's probably not going to be there at my next pick. He's at 36 overall. My next pick is, 43. I do have to reach on Rice if I want him here. Glad to be back in your lives. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. It is the best time of year, man. It is draft season. My favorite time of year. This is the peak, optimal, best time of the year, every single year. Drafts nonstop. I got all my high stakes drafts left still, pretty much. I did a $100 Yahoo draft last night. Live stream that if you want to see it on the YouTube live. Did that last night. Yeah, we're gonna go Rice here. We're gonna take Rashee Rice over Devontae Smith. God, I think I gotta reach and just do it. Round 3, Rashee Rice. He's going round 5, round 6, round 7 in so many season-long leagues. It's a mistake. Rashee Rice is a year two receiver coming off an incredibly productive back half of his rookie season. He's not competing. His role is a non-competitive role with Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy. They have different roles. So the increased receiver competition, it's notable, but it's really not that scary. He's not going to get suspended this season. They're waiting for his legal proceedings to play out. His next court date is in December. That's when the legal stuff starts, not when it ends. So Rashee Rice not going to get suspended this season. I think he's a great round 3, round 4, round 5 pick. I've seen him go as late as round 6. Wish I could have seen this sooner. I'm kind of cooked. Yeah, so let me talk through the Do Not Draft list over on the TikTok live. I'll talk through it for the YouTube live as well. But we're also live on YouTube, guys. I'm in a live $50 draft right now. Started this draft, Breece Hall, Saquon, Rashee Rice. Out of the 6th slot. Feeling pretty good. I'm going to start ripping some more receivers here in this best ball contest. So I'm not drafting Zamir White or Devin Singletary or Ramondre Stevenson because these are all guys that I think are touchdown dependent. They're not going to catch a ton of passes and they're on bad offenses. So they need to get 10 plus touchdowns, I think, to really pay off at their cost. And they need to get 15 to win leagues. I just don't think it's very, very realistic for them to do that. I don't want Zeke because he's been incredibly inefficient for 2 straight years. Kelsey, Zeke is toast. I think he's just toast at this point. I don't think he's the best running back on his own team. I think there's a better chance, honestly, that Dalvin Cook has more juice left than Zeke. And I don't think there's that good of a chance Dalvin Cook has that much juice left either. I don't want Travis Kelce. The Travis Kelce take on my Do Not Draft list, that's the one I am most scared about. Cowboys could use him in the red zone, though. Yeah, for sure. Of all these guys, maybe Zeke actually has the best chance to get to that 15 touchdown category. The reason I don't want Kelce is he went under 10 points. Actually, if you're in half PPR leagues, Kelce went under 7 points in back-to-back weeks in the fantasy football playoffs. You made the fantasy football playoffs if you had Kelce last year, but you didn't win your league last year if you had Kelce. Because he went under 7 half PPR points in weeks 15, 16, and 17 because they were scaling his workload back to get him ready for the NFL playoffs. They're going to do the same thing again with their 35-year-old tight end. That's my entire take with Kelce. I think he's the one guy, honestly, on this list that could really come back to bite me and to wreck my season. Are we going to be, Mahomes is going to be sitting there for me. I already went RB. I don't love reaching for a quarterback here right next to Allen and Hurts, but I do like the Mahomes Rashee Rice stack. I do want to consider it. I could go Pittman and get the Anthony Richardson play later too, though. Kelsey's still on the board as well. I don't think he'll be there with my next pick. We're going to do it. We're going to go with the Mahomes Rice stack, and we're going to try to get Xavier Worthy. We'll get Marquise Brown later on too. I do also not want us to underestimate, Pat Mahomes doesn't have the same rushing. There goes Kelsey, one pick after. Pat Mahomes doesn't have the same rushing upside as a lot of the quarterbacks taken around him, and for that reason, he's a little bit of a questionable fantasy pick. But you don't have to go back too far. Just go back to 2022 here, and he averaged 24.5 fantasy points per game. He has by far the best weapons he's had since Tyreek Hill was in town. Xavier Worthy, I do think, is going to have a Deshaun Jackson-like rookie season. I'm very in on Xavier Worthy. He's going way too late in season-long drafts right now. A lot of the rookies are going way too late in these season-long drafts right now. Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors, they're all going at least a couple rounds later than they should. The reason I don't want to draft Dak this season, I actually did just draft Dak in a $50 draft. I'm broadcasting live on YouTube right now. I did just do that only because I'm stacking with CeeDee Lamb, and it's a best ball contest, slightly different rules in this best ball contest, and stacking is a little bit more important. But that being said, Dak Prescott led the NFL in touchdown rate last season. I don't like drafting the quarterbacks that lead the NFL in touchdown rate the previous season because it almost always inflates their price for this season. Yeah, it is extremely rare. I've been willing to do this all best ball season, and we're going to see how it works out. Like, I have a lot of builds, not a ton, like, maybe 15, 20%, like, which is kind of a lot for how people have been drafting this season. And I'll talk through the philosophy of that in a second. It is really rare. I was saying I got to hammer receivers for the next 5 picks, and then I see Mahomes stack ability with Rashee Rice, and I just go with Rashee Rice, and it looks like someone snagged Xavier Worthy already, which is disappointing. Was really hoping to get Xavier Worthy as a part of the stack. Definitely not going to be quite as good of a stack now. And we're getting boxed out at receiver at this point, so we're definitely going to start to rip receivers. But the reason I like the game theory behind builds like this is it's going to be extremely unique. And uniqueness really does matter a lot. And if I can hit on the right receivers in these next 4 picks, I do think I can catch up. I wish George Pickens didn't just go there. I think I got to go Christian Kirk. Who do we have next here? We have Calvin Ridley actually next in the rankings. I think I got to go Ridley. We'll go Ridley here first. I actually do think the spike week potential is higher for Ridley. But yeah, if I can piece it together correctly here in these next 3 picks, I'll have an extremely unique build that I think can win a tournament. I think just starting RB is extremely unique already. Like, going quarterback here made it even more unique with this Rice Mahomes stack. Unfortunately, I missed out on Xavier Worthy. I will try to get Marquise Brown in here. Probably not with my next. He's really far down to ADP now. But yeah, I think there's enough receivers. Hopefully I can piece together. Keenan Allen's really starting to slide down the board, but all of these guys are guys that I'm going to want to target pretty aggressively. If I can get 4 of these guys, I think I'll be in a decent spot. I don't want to draft Travis Kelce, because he's a 35-year-old tight end that I don't have confidence is going to be at his best in the fantasy football playoffs. He went under 7 half PPR points all 3 playoff games last year. I don't want to draft guys that I don't have confidence will be at their best in the fantasy football playoffs. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. I am more likely to get your comment on the YouTube live. Plus, I'm in an actual draft on the YouTube live right now. Real drafts, drafting from the 6th slot. Pretty unique best ball build here. I only have 2 receivers through the first 5 rounds, which is not advised. It's typically not advised. In my last draft, I ripped 5 straight receivers. So a much different build here for me. And I do, part of the reason too that I like to mix in these teams, I said like probably 10 to 15% of my teams look something like this, where I go 2 running backs early, RB, and then I also go elite quarterback or elite tight end, which really leaves me pretty exposed at receiver compared to a lot of the other teams. Because I'm doing high volume, and I think there's a pretty good chance that unique type of build could really hit this season. If Breece and Barkley both finish top 5 running backs, which they absolutely could, and I piece together receivers, I could have an unbeatable team in the playoffs. Would love your opinion on my team. At the 3-10 and 4-1, I'm going to take QB, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm fine with going elite QB. And yeah, it depends who's there, but probably receiver, honestly, at that point for me. Daniels, Taylor, Achane, Wilson, Nico, McBride, Cup, Ben. Yeah, it's a fantastic team. I'd probably give that one an 8.5. I got faith in JSN this year. Yeah, I think JSN's a really good sleeper pick for a lot of reasons. One being he's just an incredibly talented receiver, and people don't quite realize it. And so, yeah, now looking at this, we'll see if Anthony Richardson goes right here. But I do kind of wish I went Michael Pittman instead of Pat Mahomes, and then I could have gotten Anthony Richardson in this pick. Yeah, I think that would have been a better move. I did already go Calvin Ridley, so we're going to have to get that Brian Thomas correlation. And here's where we start to piece together the receivers. Sorry about that. What's a better slot? 4, 6, and a 12-team PPR? Yes, I prefer 4, but 6 can work out super well for you too. I think picks 4, 5, 6 are the best 3 picks in fantasy this year because you're in pick 4, you're probably going to get Bijan or Brees still. And in pick 6, you still might get Bijan or Brees. But if you don't get Bijan or Brees at pick 6, you're looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown or Justin Jefferson. Like clear top tier, really top 6 guys for me with Jamar Chase's holdout going on right now. How scared are we for Kyren Williams? Yeah, I've been drafting Blake Corum a lot this entire offseason. And I'm not that scared. I'm not that scared for Kyren Williams, like in week 1 in the early roll for Kyren Williams, not that scared about it. The fact that he's returning punts, I could care less. He actually returned some punts last year. Nobody's talking about this, but he literally returned punts last year. Like this is not like that crazy. Almost every punt is a fair catch, guys. Like there's going to be a few games where Kyren actually returns a punt. It's really going to be meaningless. It's honestly just, it's really just Sean McVay wants the ball in Kyren Williams' hands as much as possible. If anything, it's kind of a good sign of how much Sean McVay wants the ball in Kyren Williams' hands. He's going to be, the thing is, like we're already projecting a little bit of a reduced role for Kyren ever since the Blake Corum pick. Wow, Kyler's fallen again. I obviously can't reach for quarterback at this point. I will go Hollywood Brown here with this next pick. If not, I'll look Ladd McConkey or DeAndre Hopkins and get this Titans-Jaguars game stacked a bit more. I do think Hopkins is shaping up as a pretty interesting pick. There goes Hopkins. I will go Marquise Brown or McConkey here with my next pick. Would prefer Marquise Brown with the stack with Mahomes, though. This guy's got to take Kyler. Got to take Kyler. He's probably not going to. Of course, he's listening to this live. He takes Hollywood Brown. We're going to go Ladd McConkey. Would feel much better about this team if I had Hollywood Brown, I think. At least Ladd McConkey's playing week 1, though, on a team that only has 4 receivers so far. Just need Brian Thomas or Ladd McConkey to hit here, though, and I think this team could smash. I do really like we got the ceiling for Ladd McConkey as wide receiver 13 in the Walter Picks app. Guys, Keenan Allen was the wide receiver 3 in fantasy football last year in points per game. That production's got to go somewhere. And it's probably most likely going to go to Ladd McConkey. Like Josh Palmer, I think it's reasonable to project Josh Palmer for a slightly bigger role week 1. It's kind of reasonable week 1, but like as the course of the season goes on, you can't debate that Ladd McConkey is a much higher ceiling than Josh Palmer. I got Zamir in the last round. It's fine. I'm not gonna bash your last round picks because you can just drop them. Watson is going to be good. Yeah, he's going to be really, really good for a few weeks. Just good luck guessing which few weeks that's going to be because he's a start-sit nightmare. Christian Watson's the definition of a start-sit nightmare. Jackson Smith and Jigba got snagged. This guy's having a good draft over here, snagging a lot of good receiver value. I wanted Worthy and JSN. He took them both ahead of ADP here. And we'll see what receivers are going to be here. Like this is we're at the receiver cliff now. I don't hate going Josh Palmer or Ladd McConkey stacked. I think stacking receivers from the same team is actually a pretty smart move as long as you don't have to invest too much capital in them in best ball specifically. Odds of one of these guys having a spike week, at least one of them, is pretty high any given week. So I definitely will consider that. Let me go back to the Mahomes playoff matchups. I know they play the Steelers in week 17. Don't have weeks 15 and 16 memorized. They get the Browns and then the Texans. Browns and Texans. That could make a lot of sense for Judy and Njoku Ford. And then Texans. There's not really much left here for the Texans. John Mechie is honestly an interesting dart throw at the end, though. Could be this year's Noah Brown. Yeah, we're going to go Josh Palmer over Sutton. Sutton, the clear top receiver on his team. Josh Palmer, though, leaves me open the Herb stacks. And Njoku's interesting, too. But I can't push tight end yet. I got to go Josh Palmer here. Definitely interested in Herbert now later in this draft. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, we're also live on YouTube doing a live draft. I'm not drafting Devin Singletary because I want to draft guys that can win my fantasy league. And Devin Singletary is just not going to win my fantasy league. Like if your goal is to not come in last, then I think that Devin Singletary is a fine pick if your goal is not to come in last. If your goal is not to come in last, I think Devin Singletary is a fine pick. But that's not my goal when I'm drafting. My goal is to come in first. And I just do not think this is very likely for Devin Singletary to help you come in first. He's not going to be a top 10 running back in fantasy. Top 10 running backs in fantasy, those are the guys that win your fantasy league. Jacobs this year, since Dillon is out. Yeah, so Jacobs is looking like he's going to get a bigger workload than they even wanted to give him. And yeah, he's got a huge touchdown ceiling. For the waiver wire, would you take Jalen Wright, Rico Dowdle, or Blake Corum? It's Corum. Corum is the highest upside handcuff in all of fantasy football this season. He is the highest upside handcuff in all of fantasy. If Kyron Williams gets injured, Blake Corum, I think, is instantly a top 5 running back in fantasy. Top 5. With the history that Sean McVay has, giving a huge workload to his running backs. And we're going to get David Njoku in the bring back here. I do like how this is shaken out. We'll gladly go Njoku here. Get that Browns correlation in the playoffs with Mahomes. I don't hate how this is turning out, guys. I'm not going to lie. I've got 5 receivers now. I got Justin Herbert upside stack, hopefully later in this draft. Got to look at their playoff matchups here too. And I probably will take Judy later too. I think there's a case for him outperforming his ADP. I just got to hit on a couple of these receivers. I could even take 9 receivers in this draft, probably will. See who the Chargers play weeks 15, 16, 17 here. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I'm more likely to get your comment on the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. I'm not taking Dak because he led the NFL in touchdown rate last season. I don't like going back with the quarterback that led the NFL in touchdown rate because they almost never do the next season. The Cowboys did literally nothing to improve their offense this offseason. Literally nothing. They signed Zeke and Dalvin Cook. That was it. He also led the NFL in pass attempts inside the 5 last season. That's not good. That's not a good thing because that's, again, really unlikely to do that back-to-back seasons. All right, they get the Bucs, the Broncos, and the Pats. The gross playoff schedule. The Bucs, don't hate me, some Jalen McMillan. The Broncos passed on Courtland Sutton earlier, but there's definitely some path to some relevance for some of these guys. And then the Patriots, I think they're all gone, all the guys that I think are reasonable. I guess Jalen Polk is still there. I could go with him. That's not that crazy. A lot of running back value sliding now. Kind of have to just continue ignoring it. And continue to scoop these receivers. Rashid Shaheed is a worthwhile spike week guy. He seems to be back to full health. Get to some of these comments here. DK or Debo. Yeah, I'd lean Debo over DK. I think that the weekly ceiling is just higher. Why would you not draft Sutton? He's the clear-cut wide receiver 1 coming off a great year. Yeah, so this is reasonable pushback. And by the way, give me the pushback, guys. I love going back and forth because I'm willing to adapt to new information. But let me pull up the information I'm looking at when I'm listing Courtland Sutton as a do not draft. You look at last season, this was a career season for Courtland Sutton. His touchdown rate was insane, 17% touchdown rate on a 20% target share, career best 10 touchdowns, and he still didn't win fantasy leagues. This is my problem with Courtland Sutton. He's 29 years old. He's never averaged more than 14 points per game. He's coming off a career best 10 touchdowns, and he still didn't even eclipse 12 points per game in PPR leagues. Like, what's the real ceiling for Courtland Sutton then? I think we just saw the real ceiling, and it wasn't a league-winning ceiling. That's why I'm out on Courtland Sutton. Again, I want to be drafting guys that can win my fantasy league, and I just do not think Sutton can do it. I think he's sort of the Devin Singletary, Zamir White of receivers. Like, yeah, there's clear projectable volume. Yup, he's the clear top receiver. It's just not that exciting, man. It's just not that exciting of a ceiling. And do I go Judy or Shaheed? I think I got to go Shaheed here, and then I'll go Judy next pick if he's there. We're going to go with Rashid Shaheed. And now we got 6 receivers. Don't hate it. Don't hate how this team's shaping out. I think I might have the most receivers now in this draft. I probably will next pick if I go receiver again. Thoughts on Diggs and Keenan? Yeah, I think they're getting a little slept on. Debo over Cup or Debo or Cup? Yeah, so I think I would go Cup over Debo. Let's compare these two guys in the Walter Picks. This is a half PPR format. The half PPR definitely favors Debo, and non-PPR it definitely favors Debo also. This is also best ball, which is giving a slight edge here to Debo Samuel. These are best ball rankings. He was better in happy. If it's half PPR, I'd go Debo. If it's full PPR, it's close, man. It's close. The target share is really elite for Cooper Kupp. I am buying into Cooper Kupp not being fully healthy last season and him being fully healthy right now. But yeah, half PPR or non-PPR, I think I'd lean Debo. And in best ball, I think I'd lean Debo as well because I think the weekly ceiling for Debo is massive. He can score rushing and receiving touchdowns. Can you name some running backs to go after Zamir White on Sleeper that you think you'd rather draft? Yeah, for sure. Let's rip that. Let me show you. So I'm going to switch the ADP source here to Sleeper in the Walter Picks app on the YouTube Live. We're going to look at some of the running backs going. And Zamir White already got taken. So here's some of the running backs going after Zamir White on Sleeper that have a higher ceiling than Zamir White. Tony Pollard has a higher ceiling, could catch 50 passes this season. Jerome Ford is probably a better pick in the first half of the season. Tajay Spears has a higher receiving ceiling. Blake Corum is the highest upside handcuff in fantasy. He has a higher ceiling than Zamir White does, but he's going to need an injury for that to happen. But at least he has a path to being a top 5 running back. Zamir White does not have a path to being a top 5 running back. Jonathan Brooks, stash him on the IR. He's got a higher ceiling. Those are some of the guys off the rip. All right, back on the clock here. Judy's here, so we're going to go Judy. Get another Browns player. Open up the potential Deshaun Watson stack. We got 7 receivers now. I just need a few of these guys to hit in terms of spike weeks, and I think this team can work out. We started running back, and then I took 7 receivers in my next 9 picks. We're in our live $50 draft over on the YouTube Live, by the way, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, link to the YouTube Live is in the TikTok bio. I promise you it's a better viewing experience. The problem with Zamir White is he's not going to catch enough passes to win fantasy leagues. And the only route you can win fantasy leagues as a running back without catching a lot of passes is getting a massive touchdown total. Derrick Henry could do that. Derrick Henry could get 20 touchdowns. I don't think Zamir White can get 20 touchdowns. I don't think Zamir White can get 15 touchdowns. I don't even think he can get 10. I think he gets 10. He's probably a value. Yeah, I'm not that scared of Madison, honestly. I think there's a pretty reasonable argument to say that Madison's maybe as good of a receiving back as him. I do think Madison's the direct backup to Zamir. I don't think Madison's very good. But I do think that Dylan Lobb is just clearly a better receiver than Zamir White. That's what I'm more scared about with the receiving work. So Madison did average more points per game last season, more yards per game. Let's look at the efficiency stuff, though. Less yards per carry. Madison did have more targets per game than Zamir White last season, larger target share. Similar efficiency to Zamir White in the receiving game. So, like, he could steal some receiving work. But, yeah, I'm not super scared of Alexander Madison. The problem is Dylan Lobb was literally a wide receiver. Like, he's one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. He played wide receiver in college. He had a wide receiver target share. He had like a 20% target share. Is Njoku going to play week 1? It's a good question. I did just draft him on this team. I'm definitely operating under the assumption he's going to play week 1. Not seeing any latest news here in the app about him. Let me look this up real quick. Latest on David Njoku. Let me pull this up. Njoku will return to practice Tuesday. That was 6 days ago. Yeah, he's playing week 1. He's fine. All right, going to be back on the clock here. Herbert's still there. Polk is still there too. I could push it one more receiver, get to 8 with Polk at the Pats, wide receiver 1. Or I could secure the stack with Justin Herbert. Get the correlation with the Chargers, and Polk gets taken anyways. Probably would have been a good pick to take Polk there. So I still have the Deshaun stack here, and I don't really want to go 3 QBs on this team. Though I'm not totally against it. We're going to go Herbert here first, though. I will go 3 quarterbacks if I think I can get 3 good stacked teams together. Because the stacking benefit of getting multiple more stacks and outs in those playoff weeks, I do think is valuable. I do think a 3rd quarterback raises your chances of advancing, but lowers your ceiling sometimes a bit in those playoff weeks. Where if you could have a running back or receiver instead hitting that spot, because you're only going to be able to start one of them. But in this format, honestly, maybe 3 quarterbacks makes more sense if you got the weeks 15, 16, and 17 cumulative scoring, honestly. I only need 4 running backs on this team. I'm willing to go fragile running back with this build. I still don't hate some of the running backs available. Marshawn Lloyd's looking like a really good value in these drafts right now, too. I guess Antonio Gibson makes sense with the Chargers stack now. Might go Piran again. I did draft Mahomes, so Piran could make a lot of sense on this team too. Yeah, I'm not drafting Travis Kelce because he went under 7.5 PPR points in all 3 playoff games last year. They rested him down the stretch of the regular season. I don't want a 35-year-old tight end that I'm not confident is going to be his full throttle in the fantasy football playoffs. It's sketchy to, yeah, it is. It is a little sketchy. But I'm down to be like a little sketchy in tournaments. I am. I'm down to get a little crazy with it, especially if I went running back. Like, I already bet on this team for Breece and Saquon to be top 5 running backs. Like, I already made that bet. And if that happens, I might only need 4 running backs. I might be able to squeeze in a third big stack. And part of the thing too, like, I think we do get a little ahead of ourselves with like what is truly optimal in best ball with a type of contest that has only really been around for 4 or 5 years. Not a ton of historical data. The historical data definitely would point to me not taking a third quarterback with a Mahomes-led team. But also last year we saw back-to-back years, really, we've seen an insane amount of quarterback injuries. All of a sudden, we see a third straight year with an insane amount of quarterback injuries, and all of the Mahomes teams don't advance, except for the ones that have 3 quarterbacks. Then he comes back in the fantasy football playoffs and puts up a couple 40 bombs, and you're just purely unique in running to first place. Like, there's stories you could tell yourself where injuries occur in such a way that 3 quarterbacks does actually pan out. Probably, though, if that happens, you're still probably going to have wanted to go 3 late quarterbacks, not an early quarterback, and then also 2 more quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, a 9th receiver on this team probably will make more sense than the 3rd quarterback. I'm not going to reach for Deshaun. And back on the clock here, Pat Freiermuth is there. He is correlated with Mahomes. Top available in the app is Deshaun. Muth is up there too. I think I got to go Muth here. And now we got 2 tight ends locked in. Don't think I need a 3rd tight end now on this team, so that's good. That saves a roster slot. I think I was getting kind of close. This is kind of as far as I'm willing to push it with 2 tight ends because I'm willing to make that bet on Njoku. Hopefully, Muth can raise the floor a tiny bit here. So we don't really need another tight end. I still will consider Deshaun. He's the only other quarterback I'll consider, and he just got taken. So now we're sticking with 2 QBs, probably for the best. All right, so we got 5 picks left. I do need at least 2 running backs, maybe 3. 2 or 3 running backs, 2 or 3 receivers left with these picks now. Let's go back and make sure I'm getting the right weeks 15, 16, 17 stack. So Herbert, we already looked at these. I already favored all of these ones. I think I favored both of these, honestly. I see a lot more receivers or running backs than receivers favorited right now. We got Mahomes. Browns, Texans, Steelers. We got the Browns and we got the Steelers already. The Texans, John Mechie not going to be a bad last round pick here. They let Noah Brown go. I think that was the biggest vote of confidence. What's your percentage exposure to Mahomes this draft season? Let's take a look here. I'll take a look after my second pick here. We'll go to the exposure percentages, but I think he's definitely not at the top. Deshaun's at the top for me by like a lot. Deshaun's probably my most drafted player, I think, in all of best ball. We'll see how that works out. Definitely an extremely risky bet. But where he's going in drafts, I was frequently getting him in rounds 14 and 15 in drafts all offseason. And when I saw him there in round 14, I couldn't stop clicking on him. We were already higher than Amari Cooper and David Njoku in our ranks, a decent bit than ADP. So I found myself with a lot of them, and it just made too much sense to stack him with Jalen Wright, stack him with the Devon Achane teams, the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle teams week 17. If Deshaun Watson just stays healthy for a full 17 games, he is easily going to outproduce this cost, and he could be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. We've already seen him do it. Like, there's just fully getting priced in that he's not going to play 17 games. And obviously there's a good chance of that happening, but I was willing to make a bet against that. All right. We're about to be back on the clock here. Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen, Antonio Gibson makes sense. Also, I think I'll probably lean Bucky. Antonio Gibson gets taken. Who do we got highest in the ranks here? We got Braylon Allen actually the highest. I don't think either of them have any correlation with this team. Bucky might actually. He does. We're going Bucky. He plays the Chargers week 15. I have way too much Braylon Allen, so I think that makes sense too. He's not on the app. Johnny Munt is not on the app. Is that true? Got to fix that for sure. Let me check that out. Probably something weird maybe with his name. Let's check this out. He's their week 1 starter. So, I mean, I don't have too many thoughts on him. I definitely won't be starting him in DFS, or I don't think he's really streamable. I guess I could be wrong about that. Johnny Mund. Yeah, I see him here in the app or in our projections. Just messaged the team about that. I don't know what's going on there, but not too many thoughts, honestly. I mean, he's not the only tight end either on that team. They also have Josh Oliver, Nick Muse. Maybe we'll get some run if you ever heard of that name. All right, after this next pick, I'll go back to my exposures. We can look at that in a second. Brandon Allen goes 1 pick after Bucky Irving for me. Ray Davis definitely is the highest ceiling left. Tank Bigsby, I don't hate either. We did get Tennessee Jacksonville already. I don't hate P. Ryan either. Let's take a quick peek at the receivers too, though. I do need a couple more receivers, at least 2. We got 4 picks left, probably 2 running backs, 2 receivers here. There goes Ray Davis. I don't hate Tyron Tracy either. Honestly, P. Ryan's probably my favorite available. Who else do the Jaguars play down the stretch this season? They get the Jets, Raiders, Titans. I know the Giants play the Colts in week 17. Love with the rookies. They already toggled to 2024. Ravens, Falcons. No real extra correlation with any of these guys. Zamir White will be great. Yeah, I mean, he might be great for the first few games. Yeah, I mean, this is part of the reason I feel kind of sick, just my exposure to Deshaun. Like, he's not really a guy I totally want to root for, but I'm also extremely competitive. I'm putting a lot of money on the line. I want to win. And I think Deshaun Watson is a good pick at cost this season. I think it also, like, that the fact that he's a bad person drives his cost down a little bit because people also don't want to root for him. I think we got to go Tank here. The clear handcuff to ETN might get more run this season, coming off obviously a horrible season. But it does seem like they want to get Tank more involved. Runs well versus Falcons. He was awful last season, man. 1.4 points per game, 2.6 yards per carry. I feel like there's not too good of like a reasoning either. Like, not really like he was dealing with injuries last season. I probably should have gotten Marvin Mims there. I think that was a mistake. I didn't even look at the receivers. That was probably a mistake. Jermaine Burton, I still like this part of the draft. I don't hate going Brendan Rice, but I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably gonna take John Mechie, maybe Jermaine Burton, John Mechie. I don't want another tight end. All right, I said I was gonna look at our exposures. Let's go do that real quick. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, I'm also live on YouTube. Better viewing experience over on YouTube. I can share my screen. We're gonna look at my best ball exposures right now. Mahomes is actually higher than I thought at number 4, but not like pretty flat exposures here outside of the top 1. I'm at 20% Deshaun, 15% Kyler is number 2. Will Levis is at number 3 at 13%. Then Mahomes is down at 12% at number 4. Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Goff. I mean, I feel pretty good about all of this. I'm most scared about some of these names down below. Like, I don't have as much Anthony Richardson. I've been preferring Jaden Daniels at cost to him, so I have a little bit more Jaden Daniels. Honestly, less than I would have expected. Look at the running backs here for a second. You can see a clear theme, forming here with the running back upside late in the drafts. Last fantasy draft of the season. Bittersweet, but man, I'm ready for the season too, man. The season's going to be fun. But all my drafts for some reason this year, all my high stakes drafts, they're all crammed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I honestly don't love it, but at least I'm excited still for the draft season to keep going. What do you think about Tajay Spears? Yeah, he's one of my highest drafted running backs. I think he clearly has league-winning upside if Tony Pollard gets hurt, and he's got standalone value. Like, to me, both Pollard and Spears are getting drafted right near their floor, and they're both an injury away from just smashing and winning fantasy leagues. So there's nothing behind those two guys on that team. I think the Titans can be top 5 in pass attempts this season. Same thing as I think with the Browns. So what's the reason you're not liking Zamir? You're not liking him because the Raiders gonna suck, or are you Madison guy will have more role in the offense? Yeah, so it's more about the offense not being good, and it's actually more about Dylan Law being a much better pass catcher than Zamir White. So if he's not going to catch a lot of passes and the offense isn't good, where are the fantasy points coming from? Like, to me, Zamir White is a touchdown dependent running back. Man, Will Levis is still sitting there. I could go 3 QBs past ADP. I do have Calvin Ridley. I do have a couple Jaguars players. Got to turn it down. I think I got to turn it down and go Jermaine Burton. I still need 2 receivers on this team. I'd be forfeiting a running back if I go quarterback. I got to go. I mean, there's not very many exciting running backs left at this point, too. I did already make the bet on running backs. I might be able to get Jermaine Burton with my next pick. No, we're going to go Jermaine Burton now. If Levis falls again, I'll take him. I think Jermaine Burton still has an extremely high ceiling, especially with all this Jamar Chase stuff. Like week 1, guys, Jermaine Burton could lead the Bengals in receiving. Like I still think that's in the cards. If Jamar Chase misses week 1, I still think Jermaine Burton is behind Andre Ilisovas. But I still think the ceiling for Jermaine Burton is just astronomically higher than Andre Ilisovas. Yo, Sam, thoughts on Hawkinson when he returned, snagged him in the last round? Yeah, if you have IR slots in your league, I love grabbing Hawkinson. I love grabbing Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks and Hawkinson, probably my 2 favorite IR stashes right now in IR leagues, IR slot leagues. I think that's a very good move. Would you do A.J. Brown and Achane for Breece and Chris Olave? No, I would not do this. A.J. Brown's much better than Chris Olave. Achane could be just as good as Breece. He's not as good as Breece, but he could be just as good as Breece. I think those are much too. I think Achane and Breece are much closer than A.J. Brown and Chris Olave. Thoughts on Brown versus Moss for the Cincy backfield? Yeah, I've kind of surprised, honestly, that these ADPs flipped this draft season. Like Chase Brown in this draft, he went in the 9th round. Zach Moss went in the 10th. Like that's been pretty consistent the past couple of weeks, past month even, as Chase Brown gained some steam. And I get it. I get that Chase Brown has more of a receiving ceiling, more of a ceiling overall because of that. But to me, Zach Moss is the clear goal line back on this team. Like the clear goal line back. Like I think Chase Brown is like almost more comparable to a Tajay Spears, where like he does need an injury. I think he's going to need an injury to like really hit that ceiling. And it's not clear to me that Chase Brown can like for sure be this goal line back. And I think out of the gate, Zach Moss has a bit of a better pick right now in best ball because he's got a higher touchdown ceiling to me. All right, back on the clock here. Ricky Pearsall understandably falling. We do need running backs. Don't hate going Justice Hill. Viewed as a starting running back. Someone already took Samaje Perine. That's a little disappointing. We're going to go Justice Hill here as my 5th running back. And it could also be some correlation here with John Mechie with my last pick, so that's not bad. But yeah, I think they're both decent picks just in general in best ball. I'm down to invest in these ambiguous backfields, and I think Zach Moss is a slightly better bet just because I think he's got the higher touchdown ceiling. But Chase Brown has more of a receiving upside, so I see the case there. I think they're comparable. I do like making bets on year 2 running backs too, which is Chase Brown. What do you think of Debo? I think he's got an extremely high ceiling. If you guys are watching on TikTok, you want to know my reasoning for all these do not drafts, I pinned a video to this TikTok account, to at Walter Pitts TikTok account, analyzing every single one of my do not drafts. We're heading into round 18 on this live stream over on YouTube. Shout out to everyone on the YouTube live with me on a Sunday night. Feels like a Saturday because we got a holiday tomorrow. Smash the like button and the subscribe button if you guys haven't yet. It's going to be a fantastic, fantastic season. Really enjoyed this live stream with you all, talking through some of my takes heading into the season. It's always a humbling season. We're always wrong just as much as we're right, if not more. But we got to hit the upside takes. Just a few of these upside takes. I think my best ball season can break really well. Got to give you a chance to first place, man. That's my mentality. Every single pick, I want to pick that can win my fantasy league. That's why I'm still taking Jermaine Burton late in drafts. Sam, thoughts on Kyren and David Montgomery as my RB 1 and 2? It's not terrible. I'm not as in on David Montgomery as I was last season. White and Marvin for Gibbs, you absolutely win that trade. Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty reasonable trade. Huge fan of the show. Already have a sub. Quick question. Should I start Flowers against the Chiefs or McLaurin against Tampa? I love that we're starting to get the start-sit questions, man. It gets me fired up. This is maybe only the second or third start-sit question I've seen so far, But man, that's how we know the football season's around the corner. I honestly haven't even analyzed the week 1 matchups like super close yet, because week 1 is the easiest start week of the season. Starts at week of the season. It really is. Like, generally speaking, start the guys you drafted earliest. Like, just bottom line, start the guys you drafted. Why did you draft those guys if you weren't going to start them? That's like my general take week 1. I'm willing to be flexible on that in the right cases. Like McLaurin against Tampa is a pretty good spot, man. But I still think I'd probably go Flowers against the Chiefs. I think it's really close, probably, actually. Let's see. We actually got McLaurin ahead. Yeah, it's pretty close. But yeah, I think it's Zay Flowers. Ask me again on the Sunday morning live. I might have a different answer for you though as I dive deeper into it. Yeah, I honestly think Eckler's the better pick at cost here too. He's got the receiving upside and also, maybe can get some of that goal line work. We're going to go John Mechie here with the last pick. Could be this year's Noah Brown. 2.592 build here, starting RB. Didn't take another running back till round 14. Hammered receiver here in the middle rounds. Need just one of these guys, Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Rashid Shaheed, Jerry Jeudy, a couple of these guys just to really hit. And I think this team's got a chance. That's my time, guys. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Why is everyone hating on Sam Laporta? Really just because he's really, really high priced. And there's some other good young tight ends. I'll be back live before the season starts at some point. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, it might be Tuesday, but I'll be back live for sure. Make sure you join the Discord. If you're in the YouTube live, join the Discord. That's how you know when I'm going live. And also you can chat directly with me. I've been talking in there a bunch. I talk through some specific strategy, get to your comments there too. And as always, make sure you download the Walter Picks app. It's going to help you crush this season. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Good luck, everybody.